Neither is this, but
No. Just to make the guy that we're having a cup of tea, which is good for the health. But
yeah, we say it's tea. If I wasn't driving in about an hour, then I'd probably have a beer.
If I wasn't man, this the only problem stopping him is that I was driving, bro. Otherwise, I would. So
exactly.
So let's start. I will just present. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. We don't care. It is the evening or the night. At the end of the day, we talk. We are in the internet. I am with the goat, the goat, and I hope that Mike Tyson doesn't take it badly. But we have the goat. He's a Lyndon Tomlinson, a real scout, because scouting is a job. Is something that everyone cannot do. You have to work a lot to understand the game. So please, Lyndon, welcome. I think that I was chasing you for a long time. I was sending text to your father, your family, everyone. I sent a text to the police.
Mate, I'm sorry.
But thank you very much to be here. We are very happy to having you here. So please, Lyndon, before we start, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks, mate. As you know, I was away on holiday for a couple of weeks in Thailand. Just got back, and then just about to hopefully start on the next chapter in my football career. We can talk about that a little bit later, but excited to move back into club football. I know some of the people watching this will be looking to either become a scout or an agent or whatever. So it's now I've worked on both sides of it a little bit, so I can give you my experiences. But we all know it's more or less the same thing. It's watching football and working with football players, young players, and I'm excited for that.
No, we are very excited because the scout in a football club is very important. It is the one that that is the one that is going out there and just finding the right one. Before we start, what is the weather in England at the moment?
Today, it's warm, not so sunny today, but the last few days have been really sunny. Obviously, we had Wimbledon last couple of weeks, and it was really hot. And they're saying next week it could be like the hottest ever it's been in the UK. So maybe like 40 plus degrees. So it's rare for us. Normally it's raining or it's cold, but this summer's really hot. So just enjoying it.
I think you just need to enjoy it. I can see that a lot of Englishmen and women are coming to Spain, and basically their favorite place is Benidorm, where they're just living there for 1 week and then they go back to work. But basically we call it London on Sea in here. That's I think the British British people, they love the sun.
It's the same when I was in Thailand. A lot of British people, and like say in Benidorm and Faro and places like that.
But don't compare Thailand with Benidorm, because Thailand, it's a dark place. I just want to know that Thailand is a dark place, which we love, all of them, going to Thailand because it's beautiful, beaches and
it has everything. It's an incredible place.
And the food is good in Thailand.
Food is good, I think you can get anything. You can get Thai food, Western food, whatever you want, you can get there. So as far as Asian countries go, it's really set up for both Thai food and for people going from whether it's Australia or England or wherever, USA. They can cater for everything.
It's very international there because a lot of tourists are coming in and.
Yeah, exactly. So they're used to it, I think, and especially coming out of COVID, it's starting to get busier again as well.
What basically I wanted to know is that were you a football player before? You were playing football when you were younger?
Only, I used to. I played only kind of at a really amateur level. Local to me. Where I grew up, the clubs nearest to me are Huddersfield Town, Leeds, Barnsley, Sheffield Wednesday, Sheffield United, but when I was growing up, there was never any really scouting presence at games that I went to. I played in. So, growing up, we wouldn't see any scouts from any clubs here. Now it's obviously as the game has changed, it's different. But I enjoyed playing. Used to love playing football. But once I got to kind of 14, 15, I kind of enjoyed playing Championship Manager or Football Manager, or I started to get into that side of it where I was more interested in things that were maybe off the pitch, and I realised because I'm quite small, I'm only 1'6", 1'5" or something, so I knew the game was changing. So I understood that I was probably never going to be a professional footballer, unless I was like Zola or Maradona or Messi or
come on, man!
So in my head, I always thought, I enjoy playing football. It's good, but I always thought maybe I want to work in football in a different, maybe as a manager or as a coach or as a sports director. Back then when I was growing up, the role as a sports director was not really something in the game. Maybe abroad they would have it, but in England it wasn't anything that was well known. I think maybe Tottenham with Damien Comolli had like the first one, and that was probably when I was as a teenager, late teens. So as a player, I wasn't anything special, but I was okay. Probably in terms of school level and amateur level around here, I was okay. But there were a few other better players than me. But where I grew up, it's predominantly rugby as well. So in school and the local clubs, they produce really good rugby players, for rugby league, and they've gone on. Some of the guys I went to school with have played in the Super League in rugby. So it's more of a village that's centered around that. So I'm the exception working in football.
That's because you are a little man in the strong guys environment, because that these Leeds around those guys, they are very strong guys, and that's why Championship is so physical. That is why Championship football is so physical. Only strong guys, never skip leg days. Which not I am the guy that skipped leg days for a long time. But what is your academic background? What you went to school? What happened?
So I went to school. In England, we have high school. So I did GCSEs. Then I went to college. So you do 2 years at college and do what we call A levels. And then after that, I did 3 years at university and I studied law. Yeah. So my thinking at that time was, well, I always had an interest in being a lawyer. Maybe. Yeah. Always thought about maybe working in football. And a little bit of pressure from parents and things like that, to do something that's going to be useful in the future. So I went to university and studied law. Probably realised during the course that it wasn't something I wanted to do as a profession. Yeah. Still wanted to work in football in the back of my head.
Back of your head.
But it was, you learn some things and you learn some skill sets that I think are useful, and eventually that's what led to me kind of working in the administrative side of football early on. So I'd like to think it all happened for a reason. I'm not sure. I think nowadays it would be difficult because there are so many degrees in sport and football specific degrees and management and things like that. I think it's a very different world from then. I mean, we're only talking 20 years ago, but the whole football industry, there's so much more interest to work in football, but then there are so many more opportunities as well. So it's a completely different world in the space of 20 years that now, you have internships and apprenticeships and things like that, and specific degrees to go and work in this side of football or this specific sport. So, maybe I was quite lucky, looking back on things, how it all worked out. I think now I'd probably have to take a different path to get to,
how did you get into football, basically, in a professional way to become a scout? What is the first meeting that you had and he's knew that you will become a football scout?
Well, I think it kind of evolved a little bit. I mean, like I say, I always just kind of wanted to work in football because I grew up loving the game. I was a massive Leeds United fan growing up. Yeah. And I had a season ticket for about 10 years, I think, between 1993 and 2002. And we went away to watch them in the Champions League, Rome, Milan, Barcelona. Fantastic days and watching the Premier League every weekend. So when I went to university, that was always in my head as well, that I wanted to work in football. And so I worked as a paralegal for a legal firm. Did that for about 4 years after university, and then went away on holiday with my friends. We went to a wedding, my best friend's wedding in Mexico. And I had some time to think, and I thought, when I go back home, I'm going to either start working in football if I can, or try and do a degree or some sort of qualification that will help me try and get into the football industry, because I realised I was probably 20 24, 25 by that point, and I thought, time's getting on a little bit. So, that's what I did. So I came back from Mexico and I wrote to every club in England.
Like a
92,
CV?
92
CV?
clubs in England.
No way.
I'll come, I'll do some work experience, or if you've got any jobs. I applied for every football job that I saw, and didn't have much success. But eventually, I had a phone call from Stoke City.
Wow.
And they said to me, look, we're going on pre-season to Austria. We need some help, maybe with the hotels and the travel and things like that. And then they said, Tony Pulis, the manager at the time, wants some hotels for the team for next season, because when they go on away games, he wants to know what the hotels are like and stuff like that. So basically, they invited me down to do 2 weeks work experience.
Unbelievable.
So I did that, and while I was there, I got really lucky that one of the girls in the office that worked with the club secretary, she resigned while I was there. No. So they said, can you stay on for another 2 weeks?
Oh my God.
And then at the end they said, oh, you've done a really good job. Would you like to stay? Would you like the job? And I said, yeah, of course. So that's how it all started for me. I got quite lucky, but a little bit of perseverance. And so I worked at Stoke City as assistant club secretary for 3 years. And then I loved it. I was working with the academy, but also doing a little bit with the first team on contracts and things like that. And it was a great club, just being promoted to the Premier League in the kind of first couple of months that I was there. So it was a great experience, great ride. And we suddenly went from this, middle of the league championship club to a Premier League club.
Yeah.
So I did just over 2.5 years there, and then eventually I went to Blackburn. Again, same role as assistant secretary, but I didn't really enjoy the work. It was more about tickets and travel and working on, because when I was at Stoke, I'd been working with the academy stuff and watching training and working on the operational side of the academy. So I really missed it. And then I was quite lucky that a job came up at Birmingham as academy secretary. Yeah. So I went down, had an interview, met the people there, and I was really excited about the academy there and the people that were working there. And quite luckily, I got the job. I ended up staying there for 5 years. So I started as academy secretary and then academy operations manager. And when after maybe like 2 years, 2.5 years as academy operations manager, the head of academy recruitment resigned, and he went to work for Liverpool. So I thought, oh, great, this is my chance to. But what happened was the youth team coach, his son was working in America as the academy manager at Chicago Fire. And he said, oh, he wants the job. So I didn't say anything. I said, oh, okay, no problem. He came over from America with his wife, but she hated England.
Oh, my God.
So he only stayed maybe 3 or 6 months, and then they moved back to America. So the job was available again. And I said, okay, this time I'm going to speak with the academy director, who had given me an opportunity before, and we'd worked together for 3 years. So, and the rest is history, really. He gave me the job working in scouting, recruitment. He said, okay, you want to do it, I'll take a chance. And I was really lucky to work there for 5 years in total, because it was a great club with some great players coming through, and the club was really struggling financially. We had the academy kept the club alive with, Jack Butler and the Damari Gray, Nathan and Jordan Much at the time, and obviously Jude Bellingham since has gone on to have a fantastic start to his career. So we were quite lucky that we had a great group of players that we were working with, through all the age groups. And then, after 5 years, the club was really struggling financially, and I had the chance to go and work for Manchester City. It was an offer that I couldn't really turn down, financially.
How did it happen? The offer, the Man City deal? How did you go from Lyndon Tomlinson, former GOAT of the youngsters, now the GOAT of scouting of Stoke City? How it happens to go to Man City? Because Man City is a big club.
It's a massive club, Massive and at the time, it was they just won the title, the Aguero goal.
Oh my! Now they have the stadium. Now they have the stadium. Jeez, they have
a statue.
Sorry, of Aguero in the stadium. Like it was amazing. I remember that I was in England. It was amazing.
Yeah, so they just won the league the year before. So the guy who'd been head of recruitment at Birmingham when I first started, he went to Manchester City about 3 or 4 years before.
Yes.
And he called me and he said, look, we might have a job coming here. We need someone to coordinate the recruitment for the youth side.
Yeah.
I said, okay, it'd be interesting. He said, look, it'll probably mean less actual scouting, watching games, but more managing the scouts, making the target list, deciding who we need to go and watch at the weekend, and, producing the information for the players we want to try and sign. So, and also with that, we have a club in Ghana, Right to Dream, who were connected with Man City at the time, and he said, we'll need you to help manage that a little bit as well when they come over to England and things, and you might need to go to Ghana. So yeah, it was a good opportunity to go and work for a massive club at the time.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was a shame because I didn't really want to leave Birmingham. We had some fantastic times. I have some great memories, some great friendships, but yeah, the club was struggling financially, and it was obviously job security was not always there, so I made the decision to go, and I had 2 years at Man City, and then really enjoyed it, and then quite out of the blue, after 2 years, we had the opportunity to go to Manchester United.
I want to know, because I remember I read a lot of things in the press when Mourinho comes to Man United. And I remember that. And then Mourinho comes to Man United, and then there is two guys from Man City. I think I remember it was leaving Man City to go to Man United. Please explain me, because I remember you were on leave, you couldn't do nothing, you couldn't say nothing. Please explain to us, please, how it happened to go to the Jose Mourinho Man United. I want to know.
Yeah, so it was, like I said, I mean, it wasn't really anything that was planned. It just came about, and I think Manchester City had overtaken Manchester United so much. The level, recruitment, scouting, and in terms of the whole academy, there was a big difference. So yeah, I mean, when I worked at Manchester City, I got quite close to the head of UK scouting, Dave Harrison. So he's the other guy you mentioned in the articles that the press put out there. But so yeah, long story short, he ended up, we heard about the idea, and he went to go and meet John Murtagh and Nicky Butt at the time. And came back from the meeting, and he called me and he said, this could be quite interesting. Because before we were like, we're not going to leave Man City, But he said, actually, the challenge is there to make Manchester United a great club again. The academy side, and the recruitment side.
Great again.
Yeah, and he said, look, they're investing a lot of money. They've already recruited, I think, like maybe 20 scouts around the world to work on the youth side.
Jeez.
They want you to come in and potentially, they want us to go in and kind of revamp it all.
Yeah.
So we had a few frustrations at Man City at the time as well. It was getting more and more difficult to get players in. We just signed like Sancho and players like that. And it was always getting more and more difficult to keep the level of players we were bringing in high. And yeah, we just saw an opportunity to go to Manchester United and really just try and transform, what was a massive football club, and just bring some of our ideas and some of our strategy to the club and try and oversee a little bit of a resurrection of their recruitment and the academy side. And so yeah, in the end, it was just too good an opportunity to turn down, really. As I say, growing up as a kid as a Leeds fan, and Dave had worked for Leeds and was a Leeds fan as well, so, and had played for Leeds as a scholar. So it was difficult for us to go to Manchester United, but we knew that in terms of the football world, it was a massive opportunity for us, and we took it. And we were lucky. The people that they recruited to scout in Europe, South America, were really good guys, and we brought some people in that worked for us, and we were really lucky to have a fantastic team of people working for us. So, and I was there for almost 5 years, but overseeing everything around the world. It was a massive jump from going from being at Birmingham to then doing that at Manchester United. But an incredible opportunity, and it was a privilege to have been part of that football club. Even though I left in the end because I was frustrated with a few things, and it's difficult when you sometimes work in such a big organisation. You want to make change, but change is not always easy. And sometimes it's difficult. It doesn't happen overnight, and you have to go through certain processes and procedures to get things done. And sometimes that can be frustrating. And I think after 5 years, I was a little bit kind of looking for a new challenge, maybe. But I think we did a great job, and the guys are still there. And I've got some great friends there, and people that I respect a lot that have taught me a lot.
That's the part of
managing them, but
learning.
On the academy side, the coaches that came in, and really, I mean, it was probably the right time for me to leave, but it was a great 5 years, whatever happened. So,
and it's for you, it's a memory. It's like something that you will remember for all your life, and it's
exactly, yeah. When I look last year and I see some of the players that get on the first team pitch, it's always. That's where you get the most satisfaction. If you can sign players that then go on and have, whether it's a boy you sign from an amateur team and he goes and has a professional career, or it's a boy you sign from another professional club and he makes a debut for Manchester United at Old Trafford. It's such a rewarding industry to be in, because you can literally transform lives, especially young players. And what it's like in Paris, for example. You can have families that don't have enough money to buy food. And
exactly.
The next minute they're driving Lamborghinis. It's
listen.
There aren't many industries that can do that. Literally transform the lives of young players or players from whether it's South America or Africa or whatever. Football can have a massive impact on people's lives.
People in general, football is massive. It's I think it's the most important events that have been seen in the world. The World Cup, the final of the World Cup is very important. And what is I always ask myself, what is the journey? What is the day-to-day job of a scout? What does a scout does from Monday to Sunday? What he does? What is his purpose? What is the job you have to do in daily basis?
I mean, we were quite lucky at Manchester United because we had, like I said, we had a lot of full-time scouts who had very specialised roles. So the guys in Europe, South America, Scandinavia, places like that, they were full-time scouts. So they would be out watching whatever they could, really, or they'd be watching videos of games, they'd be speaking with agents and things like that. And the reason we did it was, if you're part-time, and there is a role for people that can do it part-time because they have a full-time job, and then their hobby or their passion is to go out and watch games on a weekend and things like that. So we had a lot of part-time scouts doing local and national recruitment.
Yes.
And then full-time staff that were also managing those people as well. So, but they, on a day-to-day basis, they would be watching videos and, looking on social media. They would have meetings with other clubs, other agents. Basically their full-time job is to try and recruit the best players in the club. So we're always having meetings about players and new ideas to try and recruit players or identify players. And I think when you're lucky to have scouts like that, and it's their full-time job, that they can concentrate solely on that. So, for example, we had one full-time guy in France, two part-time guys. But you know how big France is. So always there'd be a game on Saturday, Sunday. So he's got to decide if he's going to Paris or Nancy or Lyon or
Saint-Etienne.
In one place at any one time, right? So a lot of it is using your network and contacts, and that's why we eventually had two part-time guys, one in Paris and one in Toulouse, because you need sets of eyes sometimes. You can only, if you have a full-time scout, it's fantastic because you can always be on the phone to agents.
Of course.
Doing the reports after games, coming up with different ideas and keeping on top of the market, really.
Yeah.
And if it's your full-time job to do that, it gives you the time and the energy to be able to do it. But obviously, you can only be in one city or one game at a time. So, 3 o'clock on a Saturday, you can only be in one stadium, right? And if you have to travel, and it's 4 hours there, then 2 hours for the game, 4 hours back, it's a big thing. So we were good in that sense that we had people that would manage, and even nationally in England and the UK, we had people that looked after 9 to 11s age group specifically, or we had someone that would look after 12 to 14s, 15s to 16s in the north and south, just to try and make sure you're on top of the market. Because, if a player signs for Chelsea or he signs for Liverpool or Man City, you have to be able to say, okay, did we know him? If we knew him, why didn't we try to sign him?
Yes.
Or did we try to sign him? We weren't able to compete for whatever reason it might be. So it was just to be able to say that we had the best or the broadest knowledge we could, of every club, every age group, every team. It's not always possible, and it's obviously that's the ideal. You want to know every team, every age group, every player, but that's impossible. But that's the ideal, is to know every player. But even then, you'd have different scouts who have different opinions. So, you can never have an exact overview of everything. But that's what you try and achieve, really. And then obviously you have to try and make a decision on which are the ones you want to try and buy if you can, or
that's my question, because, for example, you go to on a Saturday morning, you see a top player, you think that, okay, this guy, if he hold the box, and we want this guy. So first of all, I have two questions on this one. First of all, what are the abilities that you personally, generally clubs, but with your experience now, working for Man City, Man United, you've been working from Birmingham and even Stoke City, and those clubs, what are the 5 characteristics that you see on a player that makes you say that, okay, this player is interesting?
Yeah, I think everybody now, because there are so many courses and everybody's educated and everybody kind of looks for this. We call it the 4-corner model in England. Obviously, that's the technical, tactical, physical, and the mental, psychological part of it. Other people talk about different things like personality, but they all broadly come into those 4 things. And I think you kind of need to have an element of everything. And when we were at Manchester United, we would always say, okay, is he either an expert in one of those 4? So physically, he's like, I don't know, like Lukaku, or like Pogba,
or strong, tall, powerful
athlete, or is it that he's like Lionel Messi, but physically not as strong, or tactically doesn't understand the game, or maybe psychologically, mentally, he's not the hardest worker, or he's not got a great positive attitude. Sometimes he's sulky or whatever. So I think the way we kind of looked at it was, okay, is he good in 3 of those 4 areas? Or is he excellent in one of those areas? So always you trying to think, okay, what is this player? Okay, he's a technician, but physically he's also fantastic, or he's fantastic mentality, he works hard, he's good with his teammates and everything else, and has a desire to win and all that sort of stuff, tough mentally. So, we always try to use those as the cornerstone of what we're trying to identify. So, and then we would probably have positionally, what is he? Obviously, is he a left back? But what do we look for in a left back? Is it excellent defensive skills, or is it now the modern game? He has to be able to get up and down the wing. So we would have different kind of profiles of players that we would look at. Is he like a target man centre forward, or is he more of an Aguero type? So we would look at different profiles of players, and also look at what they are physically, technically, psychologically, things like that. So those are the things we were just trying to identify, and we would probably just get the scouts to make sure that they were conveying, what is the player, where is he strong, where does he need to improve, what is he in terms of profile of player, and where do you think he would fit into, say, Manchester United or Manchester City, or because obviously like different teams, what Manchester City are going to do. They have a coach in Guardiola. They have a bit of an identity in terms of their 4-3-3, and what their profile of players are going to be like at each of those positions. So Manchester United a little bit different, when we went, it was kind of, midfielders need to be, rather than say Manchester City have a number 6, like a Fernandinho, and, number 10, Bernardo Silva. Manchester United are different because they're looking for a Pogba type that can do a little bit of everything, maybe.
So which we can stop with Pogba, because that's I remember when Pogba left Man United and he went to Juventus for free. which is insane.
Yeah.
And then they're
Twice.
pouring back for 100 millions around it. Okay, so what I had my own opinion on Pogba.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think that Paul Pogba wasn't made for Man United, or he should have learned about Man United way, because Pogba is a centre mid in the English definition of a centre mid.
Yeah.
Normally, strong, tall, he can do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Okay, but Pogba in Italy, in Juventus, he was a midfielder, like
Yeah.
in the upper on the pitch,
Yeah.
particularly number 10, scoring goals, assists. What is your take on Pogba in Man United? I know
Yeah.
it is a difficult question to
It
ask you,
is.
because,
Yeah.
but give you your honest opinion on what you think
Yeah.
about the situation of Pogba in Man United.
Yeah, he's a bit of an enigma, and it's difficult to pin down exactly why, because you look at him for Juventus and for France. He's won a World Cup, he's won lots of trophies in Juventus, so there is a player there, and especially because, like you say, he was there when he was 16, and you think, okay, well, he understands the club and the culture, and he grew up there. So you think maybe when he goes back, he's going to be the same player that he was for Juventus, and he has been for France. But for whatever reason, sometimes, and that's the frustrating thing. You can see a fantastic footballer that you think has the potential, and for whatever reason, it just doesn't work out. And people will say about Pogba, it's a psychological thing. Sometimes he applies himself, sometimes he doesn't. He's had different managers at Manchester United, and maybe that's been difficult for him because Mourinho was different to the way Solskjaer was different to the way
of course.
different. Sir Alex was different. So maybe the changes in managers haven't helped him either. I think he said that the other day when he was in Turin doing his press conference. So it's difficult to pin down. I think, and that's the thing working on the youth side of it. The younger you sign players, more difficult it is to be sure that they're going to be a success, because
I know.
so many things can happen in their lives, in their football career. They're growing up as young boys, and
they change mentally. They change. They see like girls and the rap music and stuff, and they start to mix.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely, they can have a bad injury. Anything can happen. So it's not often you have a player that goes from being here to up here and it's linear success, because players can be up and down, and they can just seem to fit well at one club and it doesn't work out at another.
That's true.
So it's difficult, because I'm sure with Paul Pogba, everybody at Manchester United probably wanted him to be a success, and himself and the staff and everybody else would have probably tried to give himself every opportunity to do that and to be the best kind of version of himself. But for whatever reason, sometimes it doesn't work out, and whether that is a psychological thing, whether it's you have a few injuries and you don't get a run of games, or the coach doesn't like you, or you don't like him, or there's a lot of factors that can prevent you from doing well at one club, and I've seen it. We've signed players that haven't done well, but then they go on to other clubs and do well, or they've come in and done better than we expected. Sometimes it's not an exact science, and like I said, the younger you recruit players, you start at 9 years old, you just don't know. You try and get the best players you can,
exactly.
Potential. But,
and for example, if we look at a player, if you have a 16 years old player that is, for example, regarding the 4 pillar of scouting, and the player is very, very technical and very, very fast, but he doesn't have any understanding of the game, and is very, very short. Is it the player that can still be successful in Man United, Man City, Real Madrid, or?
I think this is always a conundrum, because I think you can always work with players and try to improve them, and I think sometimes at a bigger club where there's more competition, where there's probably less patience to deal with players, they're more easily discarded, in terms of it's too much hard work to get that player from this level to this level. Whereas, obviously, like I say, I worked at Birmingham, and we had to we recruited boys from inner city,
Yeah.
where there were a lot of very physical, athletic players,
Yeah.
but they needed a lot of work technically,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the coaches understood that. And especially if we had a player that was very good technically and very good physically, we knew we had to try and enhance the player as much as we could. So that was our job, and the academy at Birmingham kept the club alive because we worked with players. We went above and beyond because we had to. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
we couldn't go out and buy players. We didn't have
Yeah.
the money to go out and buy players. So we had to work what we had. And then, okay, if someone comes in and takes the player, Man City, Man United, you get your money, and we've done our job a little bit. So I think just sometimes when you work in a smaller club with a different mindset, you appreciate how much you have to work with players. And I think when you're at a higher level or you recruit at a higher level, you have to accept and expect that the coaches probably want somebody who's already hitting, high levels, whether it's physically or technically, or, I think you always have to try and recruit players that have got more potential than the other players already at the club. So it can vary. It can vary from club to club, and sometimes you might be looking for a specific position or a specific profile of a player. So whether it's the academy manager or the coach, they give you a brief and they want maybe a left back from the team. So you can be a little bit more guided on that and have an idea of what it is you want. But in terms of going back to what you said, I think just sometimes working with players, sometimes you look at Kante, for example, at Leicester, because he's going to get the opportunity to play every week, and he's, people are watching him that didn't know about him before. Suddenly, a different world opens up to him at Chelsea
That's
and
true.
beyond.
That's true.
Sometimes with those players, where you wouldn't get an opportunity at a top four club, for example, you'll get an opportunity at maybe a Leicester or a Southampton or an Aston Villa, that are just maybe on the periphery, and then the players will either go on to be world-class players, and they might eventually move for a high transfer fee.
Yes, especially in England.
Yeah. So sometimes it's just the mindset changes. The lower you go down in the league, or the smaller the club is to some extent. Budgets are smaller, and you have to work with players. And sometimes players just need a little bit of luck or an opportunity, and sometimes they take it. Whereas those are the harder to come by the higher up the league you go. So you look at Rashford, for example.
Oh my God!
Rashford got an opportunity young because of injuries and things like that, and he didn't really look back. Now he's probably not gone on to quite have the career at the minute that everybody hopes he would. But
Rashford is someone that is a little bit of a mystery for me because he's tall, strong, quick, good touch, technical. You can finish. This guy could be like Nicolas Anelka.
yeah,
If I look at him,
exactly.
this is the same kind of body, slim, everything. He has everything Nicolas Anelka had. But I think that, in my opinion, he's a good boy.
Yeah.
The problem with good boys is that you're still good boy, so you're making things perfect. The problem is when you want to win the World Cup, you have to be
You
a
made
bad
a great
boy.
comparison because Anelka probably wasn't a good boy, and probably didn't achieve as much as he could have achieved because he wasn't.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you have the two extremes where, Anelka, if he'd have had maybe some of Rashford's mentality,
Oh my God.
unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Whereas Rashford, if he had a little bit more of Anelka's,
A little bit of
mindset,
this craziness of this thing that
it's
makes
getting
you
that balance. Yeah, it's difficult, and you look at, I don't know, say a Balotelli or
Balotelli. Oh my,
like
what
that.
a waste!
You look at the talent and you think it's a waste of talent, but then they've still had good careers in football. And sometimes it can go the other way where you need a little bit of arrogance and a little bit of self-belief to get to a certain level. But if you're not going to work hard and you're not going to be committed, then it can obviously go the other way. So it's like anything in football. Nothing's an exact science. We try and use video now and data and things like that, but nobody can tell you what's going on inside the head of a footballer sometimes. So it's.
I want to ask one thing that people ask me a lot is that as a scout, you have your email address. Are you receiving like like thousands of emails from agents from all around the world sending you videos of the guy. Is the new striker of the power. He's tall, 9 years old, 17 years old. He's the biggest player of Malawi. This kind of player. How do you deal with it? Like when you receive like so many players and the people say
it's difficult. It's difficult because coming from Birmingham, always in the back of my head there's a thing saying you don't know where the next player's coming from.
Exactly.
So you want to follow up every lead, but then you look at these days, you have Instagram, you have LinkedIn, you have everything. So you're getting emails and videos and profiles of players from everywhere, from Africa, from South America, from Europe. And I think what you have to do is, if you work for a club like Manchester United, you have to just apply a little bit of common sense.
Yeah.
You have to have a bit of a logic. If a guy is 25 and he's playing in the 6th tier of French football, you have to say, look, I'm sorry, mate, but you have to be realistic. This is probably not...
Oh, my God. Jesus.
I'm not saying you're not a good player. I'm not saying in a different world you wouldn't have been a top player, but, you have to have a bit of logic to it, because if you don't separate the logic from everything else, then, if it's a 9-year-old that's just moved to England, he was playing for Paris Saint-Germain, I don't know, and okay, we need to follow this one.
We need to follow this one,
talent, but you just have to apply a little bit of common sense sometimes, because, like you say, you can get hundreds of emails, messages a week, and it's like you just have to filter whatever you can. And I always try to be polite. I always try to be respectful, because I think in football, especially, you have to be humble sometimes. So I try to be respectful and reply to every message that I get.
It's difficult.
But sometimes you just have to say, look, I have to be honest with you and say, this is probably not going to be the future for you. If you're 18 and you've never played football before, honestly, I would get emails saying, I've never played football, but I want to be a footballer. And you're like, you have to understand that we're in the world that we live in. It's you have kids that have been playing since 3 years old now. And at Manchester City, they have like 3-4-year-olds already in their system, So they understand how to work with a ball from a really young age. So
I spoke to different. I received myself a lot of videos now, because I was one of those guys when I started in 2011. I was sending emails to everyone, and now I received that, and it shows that I think that in the world of the agents, as an agent, I think that agents need to have scouting education. Better for
it's
that.
like you say. So, just for example, if you're an agent and you're sending a player to every club, you almost have to say, all right, I understand either the level of this player, or I understand the background of this player, to say it's not realistic for me to email Real Madrid about him. I have to look at, maybe if he's a French player, I have to look to like a good academy in the 2nd or the 3rd level of French football. Because if you said to me, Willie, every player that you get and they're all rubbish, I go, all right, I don't have time to speak with Willie because he has another rubbish player.
Yeah, only rubbish.
That's where you have to have a little bit of credibility, you know. And we've, I've known you now for, I think, maybe nearly 10 years, right?
Yeah.
And I know if you bring a player to me, it's a good player.
Because I know what you want
to. A different player.
I know what you want, because when I was starting, I didn't know what people wanted. And a lot of agents, when they start, they don't know the difference between a top player, an excellent player, a good player, average player, and which is very, very, very difficult. They don't have the knowledge of scouting. No. But the trust you're building with the guys, the agent, the scout, is very important.
Yeah, and I think, like I say, it just comes back to building your credibility a little bit. If you want to work as an agent and you don't have an eye for it, that's fine. I don't think there's a problem with that. I think if you're working, for example, you work for an agency and you've got someone that you trust that has a good judgment of players, but use that to your advantage. Use that if you think you have a top player, still maybe go into a smaller club first.
First.
And if the club comes back and goes, wow, he's fantastic, you know that you can go to a higher level club with that player. Sometimes you have to feel your way a little bit around the market and just understand, And again, it probably just comes back to building those relationships. So, if you call me once every 3 months and say, I have this player in France, he's fantastic, but every player you bring to me is that level, top level,
then
I know, okay, we need to do something here.
Yeah.
Whereas if you call me every day and go, I have another one for you, and I go,
come on.
really, I watched the videos. He looks like he's never going to be.
No, he wasn't even a footballer. He was a boxer.
Yeah.
When you see the guy, he was a boxer. So
Yeah.
no, I understand that, because that's the most important. I think the
Yeah.
difficulty when you start as an agent is to
Yeah.
understand which type of player can play for Man City, which type of player can play
Exactly.
for Birmingham.
Yeah, and I think, if you're a new agent and you just come into the game, it can be easy to go into that trap of, okay, I have to contact everyone, every club about this one player that I've seen. But you might have to just, scale it back and go, actually, I need to be more selective.
Yes.
Or I have to, reevaluate what level the player's at. So, if you take a player on trial at a club and they say, no, he's terrible, you have to go away and do some more studying of different levels, of different players. And I think it's difficult. I understand that people are enthusiastic and people want to,
of course,
especially if they're working with a player and they want to try and help the player. I can understand that, but sometimes you just need to think logically and filter things out a little bit, and just be clever in the way you work. Don't be emailing, calling, hundreds of people about
it backfire. Backfire. I remember when I started as an agent in the beginning, you try to find the player that's around you, and you just send emails to people, and then you realize, you understand, you watch games, because you have new knowledge and new networks. So you know that, okay, if I send someone to Chelsea, he needs to be top guy. Maybe he needs to play at national level, maybe national team under 16, under 17 for France. And also the way you send the email to the club shows if you are a professional or if you are a debutant. The way you send the email, it's just insane. You can send an email to Man City, Man United. They won't reply to it because you didn't get all the information they want to.
No, exactly. And a lot of that is building the relationships with the clubs. So, just if you can try and build a relationship with someone first and then say, look, if I find a player, I'll contact you. You don't have to be like there with 10 players.
No.
I've got this one. No, just be patient. And sometimes it only takes one player,
Oh my
you might only have one player, like Jerry Maguire, you might have one player, but that might be the one,
Oh my. And you just said it, Jerry Maguire. Oh my God.
That might be the one that pays for your career and your business and your scouting network for the next 10 years. So
listen, when you mentioned Jerry Maguire, I'll tell you something. A lot of agents, they wanted to become an agent because of Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, exactly.
They wanted to show that show some love to the player and the family, and then the success story. I think nowadays in football it doesn't happen. The success stories happen only if the player is a top player, in my opinion.
Yeah. And what I would say, in contrast to that, what I would say is sometimes, football is about opinions, and people don't have the same opinions about players. So if you see something in a player and you think, wow, I believe in this player, I think he's going to be a talent, just nobody at the minute is taking the chance. Stick with your beliefs. If you understand the game enough and you think, okay, this guy now he's like this thin, but I've never seen anybody handle a football like him technically. Then believe in yourself and believe in the player. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think a lot of that is what scouting is about. You have to have an opinion, and we could get me, you, and 8 other people in a room, and we might all have a different. You might give us 2 players, and 5 choose one, 5 choose the other, or 2 choose one, 8 choose the other.
Yes.
Football's about opinions, and you can see even at first team level, it's not an exact science. People have different opinions on different players. You ask people about Pogba, 5 people will tell you he's been terrible at Man United for the last 5 years. He's rubbish.
Yeah.
You might ask someone else, and they go, "Wow, he's fantastic," because I've seen him play for Juventus and for France, and I think in a different environment, he's a different player. So people will always have a different opinion on, a different outlook on teams and players and everything else.
And
so,
for you,
what it's like.
For you, for example, if you for all the players that you've been scouting, is there a player that you're very proud Basically, what is the first player that you scouted and then got signed in the club? I want to know this.
That's a difficult question. I mean, it would have been at Birmingham. So just thinking about some of the players we signed at Birmingham now, that a lot of them are just breaking into the first team.
Nice.
So one guy on Tuesday, he's 20 and he's had a few loan moves.
Yeah.
He was always really highly thought of in the academy, but only 2 days ago made his broke into the first team in the pre-season friendly and did really well. So look, I mean, I was quite lucky that there were already players in at Birmingham that were fantastic. So Redmond, Gray, Butland, probably hasn't quite lived up to the potential we hoped he had. And obviously I was quite lucky that Jude Bellingham was there when he was 5-6 years old. So now
Jude Bellingham,
yeah. It wasn't one that I personally.
About this guy, because I love Jude Bellingham.
He's fantastic.
Oh, he's an amazing player.
But you knew from 6-7 years old that he was an unbelievable.
At what age did you see him play?
I think he was already in and around the club when I started, I think, or came in the year after. He was 6, I think, 5 or 6 years old.
6 years?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Playing with 7-8-year-olds. Yeah, he was that good. He was
too much.
We were quite lucky to see that, and then I'd been quite lucky when I went to Man City and there were a few players. Phil Foden was, I think, maybe 14 when I went. And
it was amazing to see Phil Foden, 14 years old.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah,
it was. You could just see, Sancho we signed at 14, and he was again, just
Sancho. You see, how do you feel when you see Sancho come in and you see, whoa?
Yeah, well, Sancho was difficult because again we talk about the mental aspect.
Yes.
So for the first 6 months, I think the coach wanted to, when we signed Sancho, because he was different. He was a boy that had come from London with a slightly different mentality. The coach was like, I don't want to work with this boy. He's hard work. He doesn't want to go to school.
Yeah.
He just wants to play football.
God.
So, but you knew he was a talent. You could see him in training, and once he'd settled a little bit, after the first couple of months, he was just getting better and better and better. And you knew he was a fantastic football player. Problem at City is they've got a lot of players like that, and so the route to the first team was difficult, and he just wanted to play football. And I think he'd played enough at under 18s, under 23s, and just wanted to play first team football. So he was probably, it was a difficult one because he just had that mindset. He didn't want to go to school. He just wanted to do certain things a certain way. He had this mentality because I guess a little bit like Paris, some kids from Paris have a different mentality from kids in the south of France or in the north, in the southeast or wherever. So you just have to accept that some players are different, and especially if you're working at a club where you're signing foreign players and things like that. They have
that's true.
Mentality. They're from a different culture, so sometimes you have to accept that. But going back to that, I mean, you could see some players. I think Bellingham, Foden, were the real examples for me at a young age where you can see there was something very special about them.
Everything is there. Everything is there. You can see that this guy, if he doesn't do problems, he will go up there. And do you think that Man City regret not signing, letting go Sancho or not? I don't think so. I don't think so in my personal opinion.
I don't think so because, I mean, he's not really done a great deal so far at Manchester United. And I think maybe 18 months ago, 2 years ago, they were talking about paying 110 million for him,
But now...
so Manchester City sold him, I think, for maybe 10, 12 million, something like that. So probably they regret selling him for a lower price, but then
it was 18.
They didn't expect him to have the success he had at Dortmund. So whereas he's probably come back to England and obviously the level again is higher. So he's found it difficult to establish himself, as the regular first team player at that level. So it's always one of those, and you don't have a crystal ball and you can never be exact about who's going to be a success where. And I guess, Jude Bellingham's had the same kind of journey. He's gone to Germany and done really well. He's played for England and done really well. I guess the next step for him is can he come back to the Premier League and be a top player week in, week out? And that would be the next challenge for him.
I think that Jude Bellingham has more possibility to become a Premier League great than Sancho.
I agree,
Because Sancho is playing as a winger. And there is so many top winger in the world. And if you're not the guy that is scoring goals like Cristiano when we was Man United, scoring goals every weekend, then you're gonna be look. Raheem Sterling, he was the top guy at Man City when he came.
Yeah.
He was the boss of the club, he doing everything. Now, when you leave Man City to Chelsea for Chelsea, it's good, but it's like you're going from there.
Yeah.
And then
And that's the level. So I mean, you ask yourself the question: would Man City buy Jadon Sancho now? And would he get in the team?
no way. I don't even see how he can do it because Man City, they are more. Man United, they give now time to players, youngsters. They give time, but time without trophies. That's the problem. It's happening. Man City, they want to win a trophy every year.
That's it, and that's not to say that Jadon won't be a top player in the Premier League because he's still young, obviously, and he has time to do that. Whereas you almost have to be. You look at Man City, and that's probably why the players haven't progressed from the academy. Is that they're a little bit of a victim of the club's success because the standard to get into the first team is so high, and they just cherry pick the best players they want to sign from around the world, and because they have to be good enough to get in that team. And a little bit the same with Liverpool. And obviously Chelsea have bought a few this transfer window, so they're going to raise the level again. And then you always have clubs beneath like Wolves and Villa and Leicester who are going to be Tottenham, who are going to be, there or thereabouts. And they're going to bring players in that, we might not necessarily know. So that will maybe going to be a success. And then they'll go on and have a good level. So it's difficult to say, but I mean, getting in that Man City team or Liverpool team or Real Madrid team is difficult.
It's very difficult.
That's the reality.
And I want to know something because nowadays we know that France is a country where every Premier League clubs, German clubs, Spanish clubs try to organize the scouting network in France, especially Paris. What is your take on the French football, the French youngsters, and the way clubs now try to recruit young players? What is your take on that? What is the move? Maybe there's a change that happens in this last 5-10 years.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for us, it was probably along with Spain, was probably the most interesting market for us before Brexit.
Yeah,
and then obviously it became difficult. We signed some great French players, Norm Emran, Hannibal, who now play for Tunisia. But whenever I go to Paris or I go watch, one of the smaller amateur teams, and you go, oh, well, this boy already has an ANS next year, or he's in Clairefontaine, or whatever it might be. There's always talent there. You could go to 4 games in Paris in one day, and you'll always find somebody that excites you. Somebody different. It's a hotbed of talent. A little bit like London, I mean,
London, South London, specifically South London, North London, you can find some talent.
But you think of London's like you have Tottenham, Arsenal, Chelsea,
Crystal Palace,
Alice, Charlton, and then all the Championship clubs, all the Paris. You have Paris Saint-Germain, Paris FC,
Paris FC, Le Blanc-Ménil. You have ACBB, Paris FC, etc. You have so many clubs.
But that's why you have boys from Paris that will go and play for Monaco or Lyon or wherever, because there's so much talent there. So it's an incredible place. And even throughout the rest of France, I mean, I've been looking to go to places like Nancy and Strasbourg and Toulouse, and you'll find players in every region of France that can play. So for me, it was the most exciting market. I felt it was the most difficult market, especially with the Asperons and the Clairefontaine thing, and then signing players on the ANS, and it will get contractually, it will get a little bit difficult.
But also more tense.
Just the large, the nature of the country, just how big it is, and Paris especially, and lots of different agents trying to get different players, and things like that. It's very difficult.
It's a different market
to manage.
It's a different market, but of course, as you said, there's so many talents in France, and also I know that the INS, which people don't know understand, is INS is that when a young player signs a contract when he was 12 years old, 13 years old, he doesn't have the right to talk to any other French clubs. Because if a foreign clubs coming in from England, from Germany, and he wants to sign him, even if he is under an INS, he can leave. But in France, top players, they already send them at 12, 13 years old to say that you're going to remain here. The only club you're going to sign a professional contract will be at Saint-Etienne, Lyon, Toulouse, Rennes, and PSG, which is, I think some people said to me, I think it was yesterday or maybe 2 days ago, he said to me that France could go to World Cup with 4 different teams and can still win the World Cup.
Yeah, and that's the difficulty with the. So I think if you look at the French national teams, we had a great scout for us. He's at Marseille now, Mathieu Seckinger, but he was great and he understood the market, and obviously it's such a massive market to know. But he did some work for us as well on players that were in. I think it was like the 2020 World Cup, for example, in the French national team. So when did they come into the French national team? Was it under 15, under 16? And most of the players came in maybe under 21 or directly to the senior team.
Yeah.
They didn't come through as under 16, 17, 18s. So that just shows you the layers and the depth of the French market. That the players you think are under 16 are going to be in the national team at first team level, not necessarily, because it's every player has a different path and a different journey to get to where they get to.
Yes, that's true.
So you look at Kante, for example, his story's incredible.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
So he wasn't in the French national team at under 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So, like you said with Paul Pogba, he has an ANS to go to Le Havre.
Yes.
And ends up going to Manchester United. So, it's just an incredible place of talent. Especially with players potentially moving from Africa to France.
Exactly. So, because France is the only country in the world where you can have the whole Africa with a French passport, which is the reality. If you go to Germany, 90% of the national team would be German, born in Germany, white German, which is normal. But in France, you have Senegal, Mali, Gabon, Cameroon, Ivory Coast, and all those countries, and they were born in France, so they have the passport. And also, I think that in France, they play football every day. I remember in London, there's so many pitches, but people play only organized football. They don't play on the street.
Yeah.
They don't play outside. I was shocked the first time when I went to London. I was shocked that no one is playing outside. In France, everybody, every day, from Monday to Sunday, they are playing outside. Yeah. And technically, it's changed the way.
And you go to Brazil, and the kids are playing on the beach, and people are playing with the ball everywhere. Yeah.
Yes. Which is the country that you love the most when you go and watch plays? Because I know that you love very much Colombia. I know, but I don't know if it's for the plays.
I do. Yeah, no, I like South America. I mean, they're really passionate about football, but probably, and the same, when I've been in Africa, I've been lucky to see some real talented players.
Yeah.
The problem is maybe tactically they don't quite understand the game as well.
Exactly.
And it's difficult sometimes because you can see different things. Whereas maybe say in Scandinavia, the players have got a great mentality, or they've got excellent tactical understanding, but maybe
discipline,
don't have the physical. So I'm always excited when I go and watch players in different places. But I mean, African players, I think, have developed significantly in Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, Ivory Coast. You look at those countries now; they're competing in the World Cups year on year, so they're doing something right. And I think they're educating players more. Players have a better understanding. So you look at your players like Mane, and they're just fantastic talents.
Mane is amazing.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So I think all the time, football is developing, and especially in countries, in South America, Africa, even in Australia, places like that. Everywhere is developing, So, I mean, I like watching all different sorts of countries, and especially when they play each other. When you watch the Mexicans play against the English, and there's a different, the Mexicans are rolling around on the floor and spitting at other players, and it's like a clash, and it's a good education for everybody, to see that contrast. So
And do you think that who will win the World Cup in 2022? In your opinion, I know you're an Englishman, and you need to show your support to your country. Even if I think that they will never win the World Cup for the next 20 years, that's my opinion, because they need to change the manager first. That's my opinion, and the mentality to win a World Cup. World Cup is But tell me, what do you think about the power of football nowadays?
I mean, I think it's 20 years since Brazil won it, right?
Yes.
So
yes,
they're probably due a World Cup win, I would say. Yeah, and they have so much talent. I mean, again, they could probably put 4 teams out and,
But now it's the defensive side. The problem with Brazil is the defense. Mm-hmm. Now, do you think that the defense of Brazil now is more solid or more?
I'm not sure. I mean, it's like anything. Sometimes you don't know until they get to the tournament how well they're going to do. That's always been, I guess, some of those flair players. You have a Neymar and you have a whoever it might be. So,
you think Brazil can win it this year?
I think they can win it. I mean, look, I think anybody.
Anytime they can win it. Anyway,
anybody. I mean, England in the European Championships last year could have won it. They came close.
Yeah.
You look at France, Germany, Spain. Italy not this year, obviously. They're not in it.
But Spain.
You always look at those countries that have got a good chance. So I think it would be difficult to say anybody can or can't win it. I mean, obviously there'll be countries like, say, Uruguay, for example, that always probably nobody expects them to win it, but we'll always try and maybe get to the quarterfinals, something like that. So. Ghana or someone, one of the African countries that,
I don't think that African countries can win the World Cup now. They need to have something different in the mix, I think.
Yeah.
Technically they can, but the whole thing, they need to have something extra in terms of discipline to win it. But maybe it would happen because now we have big stars like Sadio Mane. No one could even imagine that 10 years ago that a Senegalese player will become the big star, the big attraction of the Bundesliga, which is insane.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I remember, I think Senegal had the good World Cup, was it 2002?
They beat France.
El Hadji Diouf, and he was like the biggest one. He went to Liverpool and...
Oh, my God. But he liked partying.
That was a massive shock for everyone. I think now if Senegal went to a World Cup and got to past the group stage and past...
It would be normal.
To the quarterfinals, nobody would be surprised.
I remember they beat France. I remember with Pape Bouba Diop, rest in peace, Pape Bouba Diop was playing and he scored the goal against France in 2020. It was 2002. He beat... they beat France. And I think that there's a lot of players in France that wants to choose between France and their original country, even if they were born in France. But sometimes they want, and there is a very huge debate in France about you are from parents from Gabon, Cameroon, Ivory Coast, and Mali, and also you have the chance to play for French national team, and you know that you have more possibilities to win the World Cup, to become a bigger name for playing for England. Is there this kind of talks in England for people from Jamaica, Barbados, or?
I think for England, obviously the problem they have is that a lot of players can maybe qualify for Wales or Ireland or Scotland.
Yeah.
And the reality is the competition is not as big, to play for those countries. So those countries will maybe try and recruit or scout the players that are eligible to play for them when they're younger. So, for example, in Scotland, they might select a 14-year-old that can't get in the England 15, 16 squad. But at 14, they might take him to play for Scotland. So they try to, recruit them. I think Jack Grealish played for Ireland until he was 17, 18, and then has to make a decision. But at that point, he knows he can probably play for England. So it's, do I play for Ireland where I'm going to be the star man and play every game? Or do I play for England where I'm probably not, but they've got more chance of winning the World Cup? We spoke about him before, Hannibal Mejbri, so he's now decided he's going to play for Tunisia. He played for France under 15, under 16, under 17. Decided he wants to play for Tunisia because they play him in the African Cup of Nations.
Of course.
But will he win a World Cup with Tunisia? Probably not. Could he win a World Cup with France? Yes. would he get in a French national team squad? Who knows? Because he's still only young. But
he's young, and
that's the decision that players are having to make, younger and younger. Because and I guess it's kind of where do I feel most comfortable playing? Where can I have the most success, or where can I just be happy and have a career with the national team as well as my club? So
they want to have a career in the long run. And sometimes when you play for France, you can play 10 times and then it's over. You can play 5 times and it's over. And you're marked because you have to play for one country, you have one allegiance, and you have to play for one country, which is a choice that is very difficult for people who are both French and African, or English and African, or Jamaican and
Turkish and German.
Yes. It happened for Ozil.
Portugal, with Guinea-Bissau, they have links with. So there's a lot of the world is just a different place. It's multicultural, and players that
it happens for Ozil. Ozil happens for him, and it was very difficult for him with between the German national team and also because he's from Turkish descent. And this kind of stuff happens sometimes. When France national team lose, they blame it sometimes to but it wasn't France. But when they win, it's okay. Sometimes that's the problem of political issues. But sports is about sports. Good guys, they win. If you're not good enough, you don't win. And and what is your vision of the type of players that clubs in your mind? What is the profile of the modern football player in your mind?
I think just the way the game's changed, even over the last 5-10 years, there's much more energy, tempo. So you do need players that are, obviously technically excellent.
Excellent, yeah.
But also physically need to deal with the demands of the game. They need to be real athletes. You might find players that are, like a small number 10, like a Messi type, but I think those players are becoming. It's more and more difficult for them to get into teams. You can't have a team of 11 Lionel Messis, can you?
No.
The reality is it doesn't happen. So you can find a fantastic number 10, a David Silva, and they can fit into the team, or a Raheem Sterling. But more and more the game's becoming more physically demanding.
Yeah,
and I think that links with the psychological side of it. More and more coaches need players that want to work hard and want to have a good lifestyle and not be out partying. And so then as well, coaches and managers are looking at different, sports directors looking at players with the right attitude as well, So I think it's going to get more and more difficult for players to play at a high level. They have to be technically, physically, mentally capable, of playing. And tactically, they need to understand that, different coaches have a different way of playing, and they're going to have to be able to adapt, So if it's Raheem Sterling, he's leaving City, he's now going to go and play for
Chelsea.
It's a different way, and we'll see how he does. But I just think certainly physically, you're finding more and more that, you look at, say, centre backs now. People used to talk about natural defenders or, ball playing centre backs, but you almost need to be able to do everything now.
Everything. You can score. You need to go score. Basically, that's what we talk about the centre back of Liverpool. I think now he looks like the centre back of the future.
Van Dijk.
Van Dijk is Virgil van Dijk. Is this kind of centre back, like technical, strong, quick, leader. So they're asking for a lot of abilities now, mental side, technical side.
Definitely.
To become and that's what happens with Harry Maguire. That's the problem with him now, because he became a meme on YouTube. I do think that he's a top centre back in Premier League.
And I think it's obviously what you find is a lot of players, especially in the Premier League, is getting more and more difficult now. The levels, I mean, whether it's you're coming from Italy or Holland or Germany, you have to understand there's a difference. So, for example, you might say Lukaku is, phenomenal, specimen, of a player, but for some reason he's not been successful at Manchester United, and he hasn't been successful at Chelsea
as well.
but he succeeded at Inter Milan and he's gone back to Inter Milan.
Yes.
So there's a reason why, what is it that he's not been able to do, So he did well when he was at West Brom and Everton and, Chelsea to some extent before, but there's obviously something missing to make him a top player.
I think it's mental. I think it's mental first, because for me, he didn't improve technically. So he went to Italy, but he came as the same Lukaku in England. So he didn't improve in terms of finishing, in terms of handling the ball. And I think that when you're number 9, if you look at the striker of Lewandowski, technically, people don't even realize how technical he is.
No.
The guy can score from any angle because technically he has the control of the ball.
Yeah.
So the pace is more relaxed. When you're not
but
good
his
technically,
mentality as well, every game,
he's a worker.
100%.
And the way he trains, the way he learns, that's different kind of dimension in terms of football.
Yeah, I mean, I heard something on the radio this morning. He's going to Barcelona, but he's gone into Bayern Munich. He's training 100%.
Yes.
Like a professional.
Normal, professional.
If that was Lukaku and he knew, he's going to Inter, is he going to go and be? No, probably not.
No. That's different. That's the mindset. I think that's the mindset of a champion. It's the mindset of a talented player. Different kind of players. Champion is totally different than a talented player. Champion, that's the guy that was talented, that mature as a champion. That's the discussion that agents also needs to have with their players. And I know that a lot of agents, they are afraid to say the truth to the players, because there's a money wise, and
they don't want to lose the player. They worry if they tell too honest with the player, they'll upset them. They go with someone else that wants to tell them what they want to hear. But I think that's as well where if you wanted to become an agent, you have to have that relationship where. Okay, it's difficult because you don't want to upset them. You don't want to say the wrong thing, but you have to be able to connect with the player to help them improve. And the only way to improve is if you have constructive, honest feedback, and you can have that relationship. Otherwise, if a player just doesn't want to hear the truth or doesn't want to hear how it can improve, then he's only going to get to a certain level. The best players will always be hungry to learn and how they can improve their game. Yeah, they'll be professionals on and off the pitch. So.
The top players, they always want to learn. I've always seen that they want to learn, they're ready to see the critics, and they want to shut down the critics the next game. That's the mentality that they have. And listen, Lyndon, thank you very much. We've been now, I don't know if it's an hour or not. Thank you very much. We've learned a lot with your knowledge, and I hope that you will come in Spain very, very soon.
I'll be there, I'm sure. Even after Brexit, I'm sure I'll be back in Spain soon. But
of course, mate,
it's been a pleasure, mate. And if any of your guys, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn or whatever, and if they ever want to have a chat, then I'm more than happy to help. There are some good people who want to work in football, and I can honestly tell you, it's a fantastic industry to work in. If you're passionate and you work hard, you'll get the opportunities, and there are some good people working in the game. There are some not so good people as well, but
sometimes it's difficult. It's football is very difficult, but people don't. This is the first time for some of them to see you, because people don't understand what is scouting.
Sure.
And specifically English football. When you speak about Man City, they wanted to know what is in the mind of a scout, and as an agent, how I can talk to him, how I can send him an email, how me as an agent, I can get some skills that they have. And so, brother, thank you very much. It was a pleasure. I think that it's not the last time I will see you here. Maybe we're going to see you here for another reason.
No, definitely. I mean, we just kind of drilled along the surface a little bit there. There's so much more we can talk about specifically in detail, about each facet of, whether it's how a club works, how, I mean, obviously, things are different in France, as you know, to England, but we work in different ways, whether it's internationally or nationally or locally. We have different systems and strategies and things like that. Whether it's about players, different profiles of players, what people like in players, because like anything, we all like a different striker. Someone will like Haaland, some will like Jesus, some will like Lewandowski.
Yes, that's true.
They all like him for different reasons. So yeah, that's a good thing about football is it's everyone has a different opinion.
And do you that will be my last question. Who will win the World Cup? I want your answer clear. I want
I'm going to say Brazil. I'm going to say Brazil.
You
just
say
because I have
Brazil.
a feeling.
So basically, you are basically cheating on the Queen of England. So I take that. I will speak to the Prime Minister, the new one, maybe.
I think England will have a chance, but England will need to do what they did in the European Championships last year.
Yeah.
But more, you know, and it's going to be more difficult. But England were good in the Championship, but they had an easy draw to get to the final.
Yes. Come on, man. This
and
World
also
Cup was
lost
even
at
France.
home, so.
This World Cup was. It wasn't the World Cup that I used to watch. It was a World Cup like okay, everybody can win the World Cup basically.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
And England, the problem that I have is that once they get in final or in the biggest moment, they always fail. I think that mentally, I'll tell you something. The best manager for the English national team is Jose Mourinho.
Maybe.
Believe me,
Yeah.
this guy, not for the clubs. Okay, he went to Chelsea, man.
Yeah,
If
because he
you
gets
put
results.
him with an England national team, he is the only guy to decide. There's no sporting director. He will take like 22 men going out there and win the World Cup.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see how he would work with a national team at a tournament because obviously with what he did with Porto, you know, when he won the Champions League, and you have that mindset, and people say
it's a
he's a
team.
little bit now.
It's a team for a certain period of time. I think
I'd
that's
like to
why
see
he's
him
good.
do that at a tournament because people say now his methods are a little bit out of date and he's behind Guardiola and Klopp. And,
but
you know, it would be interesting to see if he could. If it's about getting results, then maybe in that sort of period of winning a tournament, you could do that. You know,
I think
maybe
he can do
if it's
that.
about developing young players and 5-6 years now at a club, maybe he doesn't have that sort of lifespan.
No, it's not for him. For him is to get a team of adult players. That's the problem that he had with Man United. Adult players, professional, real professionals. You get him England, believe me, he goes and win the World Cup for England. And I know he wants it for a long, long time. He's a very passionate guy of England. He wants England for the World Cup. And I think that Southgate is a fantastic manager, but he will never win a World Cup with England. That's my opinion. He's a nice guy, too nice. Too nice. Too chocolate, too tea, cup of tea, etc. Which is good. I love the cup of tea. Even the beer is good as well. But I think that Jose Mourinho can maybe help the team to be a World Cup winners. Thank you very much, Lyndon.
We'll see.
It was a pleasure to have the GOAT in here. And I hope that the GOAT will come over in Spain and have a nice week in here.
I'll be in Alicante soon, I'm sure.
Thank you very much, brother. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. And Lyndon Tomlinson, the GOAT. Thank you, brother.
Thanks, mate. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.